My dad was in a coma my whole life, until I learned he destroyed my uncle's marriage. And that's why my cousin and her father disappeared. I've been visiting a ghost my entire life. Every Thursday evening, I drive 40 minutes to Riverside Medical Center, take the elevator to the 3rd floor, and sit beside a hospital bed where my father has been sleeping for 24 years. His name is Calder Voss, and the machines breathe for him while I read him updates about my job as a hydraulic systems engineer, projects he'll never understand, problems he'll never help me solve. The nurses know me by name. The routine never changes. My mother used to come with me when I was younger, bringing fresh flowers and reading poetry in that soft voice she reserves for tragedy. She still visits twice a week, maintaining the image of the devoted wife waiting for a miracle that'll never come. The story everyone tells is simple: construction site accident, wrong place at the wrong time, 24 years ago when I was just a kid. Calder Voss, the dedicated family man, struck down in his prime. The kind of tragedy that makes people shake their heads and say how unfair life can be. I never questioned it. Why would I? This was just my normal. Then last month, my grandmother Vera called me with one of those requests old people make when they're starting to feel mortal. She needed help cleaning out her attic, decades of accumulated storage she couldn't physically manage anymore. I took a Saturday, drove over with work gloves and garbage bags, ready for dust and old Christmas decorations. The attic was exactly what you'd expect: water-stained boxes, furniture nobody wanted but nobody could throw away, the smell of time passing. Vera pointed at sections, told me what could go to donation, what was trash. I worked methodically, hauling boxes down the narrow stairs, separating junk from memory. That's when I found it. Behind an old armoire with a cracked mirror, tucked into a corner where the roofline sloped down, a metal lockbox about the size of a briefcase. Rusted at the edges, no key in sight. Heavy enough that something substantial was inside. "What's this?" I called down to Vera. She climbed halfway up the stairs, squinted at it. "Oh. I forgot about that old thing. Probably just papers. Toss it if you want." But something in how quickly she dismissed it made me curious. I brought it down to the garage, found a crowbar, and pried the lock open. The hinges protested, rust flaking onto my hands, but it gave way. Inside, bundles of letters tied with string, legal documents in protective sleeves, photographs faded at the edges. I pulled out the first bundle, untied the string, and started reading the names on the envelopes. Rowan Hale. Leora Hale. I froze. Those names existed in my family history like ghosts, mentioned once or twice when I was young, then never again. Rowan was my father's older brother. Leora was his daughter. My uncle and cousin, technically, though I'd never met either of them. The family story was vague. Rowan had moved abroad before I was born, somewhere in Europe maybe, and contact had just faded over the years. People lose touch. Families drift apart. It happens. But this lockbox told a different story. I sat on Vera's garage floor and pulled out the first letter. The paper was thin, the handwriting sharp and angry. Dated 24 years ago, 1 week before my father's accident. It was from Rowan, addressed to Calder. I read the first line, and my entire world tilted. "You took everything from me. You slept with my wife, destroyed my marriage, turned my family against me, and now you want me to just forget?" My hands went numb. I read it again. Then again. Rowan's wife. My father slept with Rowan's wife. I looked at the date. Looked at the words. Felt something cold settle into my chest. The woman Rowan was talking about, the wife my father had destroyed a marriage over, wasn't some stranger. It was my mother. I didn't go home that night. I sat in Vera's garage with that lockbox open in front of me, reading by the overhead light until my eyes burned. Every letter, every document, every photograph. The temperature dropped as evening turned to night, but I barely noticed. I was too busy watching my entire family history rewrite itself. The legal documents came first. Divorce papers between Rowan Hale and my mother, except her name wasn't what I expected. The marriage certificate showed her maiden name, then her married name as Mrs. Rowan Hale. She'd been married to Rowan before she married my father. I pulled out more documents, arranging them chronologically on the concrete floor like pieces of a puzzle I'd never known was incomplete. Rowan's first marriage, a woman who died young, leaving him with a daughter. Leora. She was maybe 5 years old in the earliest photos, dark hair, serious eyes, clutching her father's hand. Then my mother entered the picture. Wedding photos from their marriage showed her younger, genuinely smiling, standing beside Rowan with little Leora between them. They looked happy. Normal. Like a family that had found each other after loss. The letters told me what the photos couldn't. Rowan had trusted his younger brother completely. Calder started visiting more frequently, helping with home repairs, taking Leora to the park when Rowan was working his commercial fishing contracts. My mother and Calder were alone together often. Too often. The affair lasted nearly 2 years. 2 years of lies while Rowan worked long hours on fishing boats, providing for a family that was betraying him in his own home. 2 years of his brother looking him in the eye at family dinners while sleeping with his wife. One letter, dated 3 months before the divorce, destroyed me. I came home early. The boat had engine trouble, we docked a day ahead of schedule. I found them in my bedroom. My brother. My wife. In my bed. Calder tried to explain, said it just happened, that they didn't mean to hurt me. Like this was some accident instead of 2 years of deliberate deception. My hands were shaking. I set the letter down, picked up another. The family meeting notes were in Vera's handwriting, neat, methodical, damning. After Rowan discovered the affair and demanded a divorce, the family had gathered to discuss the situation. The notes read like a trial where the victim was on trial. Rowan needs to consider Leora's well-being. Divorce will traumatize her. He should forgive for the sake of family unity. Calder made a mistake, but he's family. Blood is blood. They'd pressured him to stay silent. To forgive. To let his brother and his wife continue their relationship without consequences because addressing it honestly would be too disruptive. Rowan had refused. The next bundle of letters showed what happened when he told the truth to extended family and friends. My mother and Calder's response was calculated. They painted Rowan as unstable, paranoid, unable to handle the stress of providing for a family. They suggested his long fishing trips had made him disconnected from reality. The family chose to believe them. More notes in Vera's handwriting. Rowan is being unreasonable. He's turning this into something bigger than it needs to be. Calder and, my mother's name, deserve a chance at happiness. They truly love each other. I felt sick. There were photos of Leora from this period, maybe 8 years old, looking confused in images where she stood between her father and the family members who were choosing his betrayers over him. Rowan's final letter was addressed to the entire family. You've made your choice. You've decided that lies and betrayal matter less than keeping peace. You've decided my brother sleeping with my wife is forgivable, but me refusing to pretend it didn't happen is not. I'm taking Leora somewhere you'll never poison her against me. Don't look for us. We're done. The date on that letter made my blood run cold, 1 week before my father's accident. 1 week before Calder Voss ended up in a coma he'd never wake from. I gathered everything, shoved it back into the lockbox, and walked into Vera's house. It was past midnight. She was still awake, sitting in her chair with a book, like she'd been waiting. You read them, she said. Not a question. All of them. I set the lockbox on her coffee table. Every single word. She closed her book slowly. Then you know why we don't talk about Rowan. I know you chose a cheater and a liar over an innocent man. I know you pressured him to accept being destroyed by his own family. I know you let my mother and my father. I couldn't even finish the sentence. Rowan chose to leave, Vera said, her voice maddeningly calm. He chose to take that little girl away from her family. That was his decision. After you all made it impossible for him to stay. We did what was best for everyone. Best for who? Not for Rowan. Not for Leora. Vera's expression hardened. Something cold flickered in her eyes. What happened to Calder afterward was God's judgment, not ours to question. The words hit me like a physical blow. The implication hanging in the air between us. The timing. The convenient accident that happened just days after Rowan disappeared. What are you saying? But Vera just looked at me with those steady, unrepentant eyes, and I realized I might not know the half of what my family was capable of. I left Vera's house with the lockbox and didn't speak to her again. The next morning, I called my supervisor and took 2 weeks off. Personal emergency. He didn't ask questions. I'd been working there 6 years without taking more than a few days at a time. I had the leave banked. Then I disappeared into research. My apartment became a command center. I spread documents across my dining table, cross-referenced dates, built timelines. The letters gave me fragments, but I needed the full picture. More importantly, I needed to find Rowan and Leora. I started with public records. Property transfers, address changes, anything tied to Rowan Hale's name after the divorce. The trail went cold around the time of his last letter to the family. He'd vanished deliberately, covering his tracks. But Vera had kept everything. Including old phone bills. I found records from 24 years ago, itemized calls before everything went digital. One number appeared repeatedly in the months before Rowan disappeared. I ran it through reverse lookup databases, found it had belonged to a legal services firm specializing in name changes and sealed records. That's when I found it, court documents for a legal name change. Rowan Hale and Leora Hale had become Rowan Thorne and Leora Thorne. Filed 3 weeks after the divorce was finalized. New names. New start. Completely legal and completely untraceable through normal channels. I hit dead ends for days. The Thorne name led nowhere, they could be anywhere in the country, and Rowan had clearly wanted it that way. Then I found something my mother had left behind. Going through Vera's financial records, the woman kept everything in filing cabinets that went back decades. I discovered a single bank transfer from my mother's account. Dated 1 month after Calder's accident. $5,000 sent to a coastal town I'd never heard of, Harrow Point. The transfer memo line said, "Final settlement." I stared at it for a long time. Final settlement for what? Guilt money? Hush money? Or just my mother trying to make peace with a man whose life she'd destroyed? Didn't matter. It was the first real lead I had. Harrow Point was a 9-hour drive. I packed a bag, left before dawn, and headed east toward the coast. The town was exactly what you'd expect from a fishing community: salt-weathered buildings, boats tied to weathered docks, locals who looked at outsiders with polite suspicion. Population maybe 8,000. The kind of place where you could disappear if you wanted to. I spent the first day just walking, getting a feel for the layout. I couldn't just start asking directly about Rowan. If the family had ever come looking before, that would spook him. I needed to be careful. The second day, I started showing the old photographs at local businesses. Casual questions. I'm trying to find an old family friend, would have moved here about 20 years ago. Might look like this, but older now. Most people shook their heads. A few looked at the photo longer than necessary but said nothing. Then I walked into a boat repair shop on the north end of the harbor. The owner was a guy in his 50s, grease on his hands, radio playing classic rock in the background. I showed him the photo of Rowan. He studied it, then looked at me carefully. "That's an old picture." "Yeah. From a long time ago." "You family?" I hesitated. "It's complicated." He handed the photo back. "You talking about Reed Thorne? Owns the marine supply store on Pier Street. Looks a lot like that, but older. Silver hair now." My heart kicked. "That's him? If it's who you're looking for." The owner's expression was neutral, but there was a warning in it. "Reed's good people. Keeps to himself. You looking to cause trouble, you can leave now." "No trouble," I said. "I just need to talk to him." "Then talk to him yourself. Store's 3 blocks that way." I thanked him and walked out on shaking legs. I found Pier Street. Found the marine supply store, small, clean, well maintained. Through the window, I could see someone at the counter. Too far away to make out details. I didn't go in. Not yet. Instead, I checked into a motel 2 streets over and spent the next 2 days watching the store from a distance. Learning the patterns. Seeing who came and went. On the second day, I saw him clearly. Rowan, Reed Thorne now, stepped out of the store to help a customer load supplies. He was in his late 50s, silver hair like the boat shop owner said, but still strong. The way he moved, careful and deliberate, reminded me of the man in the old photos. Just worn by time and whatever he'd survived. Then I saw her. Leora pulled up on a motorcycle, full diving gear strapped to the back. Early 30s, confident, healthy. She hugged Rowan, handed him something, laughed at whatever he said. Nothing about her suggested trauma or abandonment. She looked complete. They looked happy. I sat in my rental car and realized I couldn't just walk up to them. Not after everything. They'd built a life away from the family that had betrayed them. Showing up unannounced would look like another attack. So I wrote a letter instead. I kept it simple, honest. My name. Calder Voss is my father. I found your letters in my grandmother's attic. I know what they did to you, what my father and my mother did. I'm not here to defend them. I'm not here on behalf of the family. No one knows I'm here. I just need to talk to you. Please. I'll be at the Harborview Motel, room 12, for the next 3 days. If you don't want to meet, I'll leave and never contact you again. But I'm hoping you'll give me a chance. I left it at the marine supply store after hours, slipped under the door. Then I waited. 1 day. Nothing. 2 days. Silence. By the 3rd day, I'd accepted they weren't coming. Why would they? I was Calder's son. The child of the 2 people who'd destroyed Rowan's world. They had every reason to ignore me. I packed my bag, ready to check out in the morning. Then at 11 p.m., someone knocked on my motel door. I opened it. Rowan stood there, older, harder than the photographs, eyes sharp with suspicion. Leora was behind him, one hand near her jacket pocket. The kind of stance someone takes when they're ready for trouble. Rowan's first words cut through the night air. "If you're lying to us, if you brought them here, you'll regret it." I stepped back, hands raised. "I'm alone. Nobody knows I'm here." Rowan didn't move. That's what someone who brought a family ambush would say. "I have the lockbox," I said quickly. The one Vera kept hidden in her attic. All the letters, the legal documents, the photos. I brought everything. Something flickered in his expression. "Show me." I pulled the metal box from under the motel bed, set it on the small table. Rowan moved into the room cautiously, Leora staying by the door like a sentry. He opened the box, pulled out the first bundle of letters, and his entire body went rigid. "Jesus Christ," he whispered. "She kept them. Every single one." I backed up, giving him space. "I read them all. I know what happened. I know what they did to you." Rowan sank into the chair, holding a letter like it might disintegrate. His hands were weathered, scarred from years of manual work, but they trembled slightly as he read his own words from 2 decades ago. Leora came closer, reading over his shoulder. Her face was harder to read, she'd clearly learned to guard her emotions well. "Why are you here?" she asked, voice level but cold. "What do you want from us?" "Nothing," I said. I needed you to know that I know the truth. That not everyone in that family believes their lies." Rowan looked up at me, and I saw something devastating in his eyes. Not anger. Exhaustion. The kind that comes from carrying betrayal for 24 years. "Tell me what happened," I said. "Your version. Not theirs." He was quiet for a long moment. Then he started talking. "I lost my first wife when Leora was 5, he began, his voice rough. "Cancer. It destroyed us both. I was drowning in grief and trying to raise a daughter alone. Your mother," he paused, corrected himself, "my second wife came into our lives like she understood loss. She was kind to Leora. Patient with me. We got married 2 years later." Leora moved to sit on the bed, listening to a story she'd probably heard before but still hurt to revisit. Calder was my kid brother. 8 years younger. I trusted him completely. When I started taking longer fishing contracts to pay the bills, he'd come over to help. Fix things around the house. Take Leora to school when I was offshore. I thought I was lucky, good wife, helpful brother, beautiful daughter. His jaw tightened. I came home early from a 2-week contract. Engine trouble on the boat. Pulled into port a day ahead of schedule. Drove home thinking I'd surprise everyone. He didn't need to finish. I'd read the letter. They didn't even hear me come in, he continued. I walked into my bedroom and found my brother in bed with my wife. In my bed. The bed I shared with my first wife before she died. The bed where I'd comforted Leora after nightmares. The room was silent except for the hum of the motel's heating unit. Calder tried to explain. Said they'd fallen in love. Like that made it acceptable. Like betrayal is fine if you slap romance on top of it. Your mother cried and apologized, but then, he laughed bitterly. 3 days later she was asking me to be mature about it. To consider her happiness. The family meeting was worse, Leora added quietly. I was there. They sent me to another room, but I heard everything. Grandma Vera kept saying Dad was being selfish. That he should forgive because family comes first. Rowan nodded. They wanted me to pretend it never happened. To let Calder and my wife be together without consequences. When I refused, when I told the extended family the truth, they turned it around. Made me the villain. Said I was unstable, that the fishing work had made me paranoid. So you left, I said. I took Leora and disappeared. Changed our names. Started over. He looked at his daughter with something like pride. I refused to let her grow up in a family that rewarded lying and punished honesty. Leora met my eyes. Dad never badmouthed your family to me. He just told me the truth when I was old enough to understand. He let me choose whether to hate them or just move on. I grew up thinking my father was a saint, I said, the words catching in my throat. Some tragic hero cut down by fate. Now I know he destroyed your life. And my mother helped him do it. Something broke inside me then. All the hospital visits. All the flowers. All the years of sympathy for a man who'd torn apart his own brother's world. I'm sorry, I said. I can't fix what they did, but I'm sorry. Rowan studied me for a long time. You're not responsible for what they did. But what are you going to do now that you know? The question hung in the air. What was I going to do? I'm going to make sure they never find you, I said finally. And I'm going to stop pretending that man in the hospital deserves my sympathy. Rowan's expression softened slightly. Not trust exactly, but the beginning of something like it. We talked for hours after that. Rowan told me about building a new life in Harrow Point. Leora described her work as a diving instructor, the freedom she found underwater, the distance from family drama. They'd created something good here. Something honest. As I was packing up the next morning, ready to leave them in peace, Rowan mentioned something casually while helping me load my car. Your grandmother called my old number last month. The one I had before we changed everything. She didn't leave a message, but I recognized the area code. My blood went cold. How long ago? 3 weeks. 3 weeks. Vera was looking for them. After all this time, after everything, she was still trying to drag them back into the family's orbit. They're not going to stop, I said slowly, realization dawning. Are they? Rowan's expression turned grim. They never do. I drove the 9 hours back home with my mind working through scenarios. Vera didn't make casual phone calls. If she was reaching out to Rowan's old number, she wasn't just reminiscing. She was hunting. The question was, how close was she? I got home Tuesday evening. Wednesday morning, I called in sick to work, first time in 3 years, and went to Vera's house while she was at her weekly bridge game. I still had the key from helping her with the attic. Her home office was exactly as organized as you'd expect from someone who kept incriminating letters for 2 decades. Filing cabinets labeled by year. A desk calendar with color-coded appointments. Everything in its place. I found the contract in her second desk drawer. Hammond Investigations. Hired 2 months ago. Monthly retainer of $1,500. Objective, locate Rowan Hale, last known residence prior to 2002. My hands clenched around the paper. 2 months. She'd been searching for 2 months while I sat in that hospital room reading to my father, completely unaware. The preliminary report was clipped to the contract. I read it standing there, my heart hammering. Subject believed to have relocated to coastal region based on financial trail analysis. Cross-referencing property records and utility accounts under variant name spellings. 3 locations of interest identified: Crescent Bay, Harrow Point, Kensington Bay. We'll investigate each systematically. Harrow Point was listed second. The investigator hadn't reached it yet, but it was coming. Maybe 2 weeks. Maybe less. I took photos of everything with my phone, put the documents back exactly as I'd found them, and left. The investigator's office was in a strip mall 40 minutes away. I called from a burner phone I'd picked up at a convenience store, disguising my voice slightly. Hammond Investigations. Hi, this is regarding the Hale case. I'm a family member, I have some information that might help. Interest sharpened in his voice. Go ahead. I received a letter last week. Postmarked from Kensington Bay. The handwriting matched some old documents we have from Rowan. I think he might be there. Kensington Bay? That's on our list, but I know it seems random, but the letter mentioned coastal work. Marine equipment. He always loved that stuff. I was making it up as I went, but it sounded plausible. I wanted to pass it along before your next report. Can you send me a copy of the letter? It's personal family stuff. Kind of embarrassing, honestly. But I can tell you the postmark was definitely Kensington Bay, dated 2 weeks ago. I could hear him typing. Okay, I'll prioritize that location. Thanks for the tip. Just want to help find my uncle, you know? I hung up and destroyed the burner phone. 2 days later, I called Rowan from another burner. Backlight. You have 48 hours before they might figure out the truth. Figure out what truth? His voice was wary. Vera hired an investigator. He's close. I bought you time, but you need to move. Now. Silence on the other end. Then, we're not running again. This isn't running. It is. Leora's voice cut in. She must have been on speaker. We've been running for 24 years. We built a life here. We have friends, jobs, a community. We're not starting over because Vera can't let go of her need to control people. They won't stop, I said. You know they won't. They'll come here, they'll make a scene, they'll try to drag you back into their mess. Let them try. Rowan's voice was hard. I'm done hiding. I took a breath, switching tactics. Then let me help you disappear properly. Not running, vanishing. New location, clean break, but this time nobody finds you. Not in 5 years, not in 20. I'll set it up so the trail goes completely cold. Another pause. I could hear them conferring quietly. Why are you doing this? Leora asked finally. Because you deserve peace. Because they don't deserve to find you. Because. I stopped, struggled with the words. Because someone in this family should do the right thing. It took another hour of convincing, but they agreed. I helped them relocate to a town I'd never tell anyone about, set up communication through encrypted email only, made sure every trace of their new location was scrubbed. It took 3 days of careful work, but when it was done, Rowan and Leora had truly disappeared. I went back to my normal life. Showed up to family dinner Sunday night like nothing had happened. My mother was in the kitchen when I arrived. She smiled, that same smile from the wedding photos with Rowan, before everything fell apart. How was your week, honey? Busy. Project deadlines. Vera was in the living room. She looked up when I entered. We might have good news soon. Oh? I think we've found Rowan. Her eyes gleamed with something that made my skin crawl. After all these years. Isn't that wonderful? Leora could come home. My mother appeared in the doorway. She belongs with family. She always did. I forced myself to smile. That would be nice. What made you start looking? Just felt like it was time, Vera said simply. Time to make things right. I wanted to laugh. Make things right. Like they hadn't spent 2 decades protecting the people who'd destroyed Rowan's life. I played along through dinner, nodding in the right places, asking careful questions. Neither of them suspected I knew anything. 4 days later, a large envelope arrived at Vera's house. I happened to be driving by, pure coincidence, I'd tell anyone who asked, and saw the mail carrier deliver it. I waited until Vera left for her afternoon errands, let myself in again, and found it on her hall table. Hammond Investigations. Final report. I opened it. Kensington Bay lead proved unproductive. Subject not located at any of the 3 priority locations. However, concerning development, the tip received from family member, my full name, appears to have been fabricated. Postmark verification shows no letter matching description was sent from Kensington Bay in stated timeframe. Recommend verifying source credibility before proceeding with further investigation. My stomach dropped. They knew. They knew I'd interfered. The front door opened. I'd been so focused on the report I hadn't heard the car. Vera stood in the doorway, her purse still on her shoulder, staring at me holding the envelope. We need to talk, she said quietly. I set the report down on her hall table. Yeah. We do. 20 minutes later, my mother arrived. Vera had called her the moment I admitted I'd read the report. Now we sat in Vera's living room, 3 generations of a family built on lies, finally facing the truth. How could you betray your own family? My mother's voice shook with what I think she believed was righteous anger. I laughed. Actually laughed. That's what you're going with? Betrayal? You interfered with a private investigation. I read the letters, I cut her off. All of them. Every single one Vera kept hidden in that lockbox. I know what you did to Rowan. I know what Calder did. I know the family pressured him to stay quiet while you 2 destroyed his marriage. The room went silent. Vera recovered first. We protected this family. We kept it together during a difficult time. You protected a lie. My voice was cold, steady. You punished the victim and rewarded the cheaters. Rowan's wife and his own brother betrayed him in his bed, and you made him the villain for refusing to accept it. My mother's face had gone pale. You don't understand what it was like. I was unhappy, Calder and I fell in love. You were married to Rowan. I stood up, couldn't sit anymore. You made vows. You built a life with him and his daughter. And you threw it all away to sleep with his brother. Then, when he had the audacity to be hurt by that, you let the family paint him as unstable. He took Leora away from us, Vera said, that same maddeningly calm tone from before. He had no right. He had every right. She was his daughter. You think he was going to leave her with people who'd just proven they valued comfort over truth? I turned to my mother. You spent 24 years playing the grieving wife. Bringing flowers to that hospital room. Reading poetry to a man in a coma. Everyone feels so sorry for you. She looked away. Where is Rowan? Vera's voice hardened. What did you do? I made sure you'll never find him. I made sure Leora gets to live her life without you people trying to drag her back into your dysfunction. My mother stood up. That's not your decision to make. Neither was destroying Rowan's life, but you made it anyway. I pulled out my phone, opened the photos I'd taken of the letters. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to stop looking for Rowan. You're going to stop pretending Calder was some saint. And you're going to leave me alone. Or what? Vera challenged. Or I send these letters to every extended family member who still believes your version of events. Uncle Hayes. Aunt Lorraine. The cousins. Everyone who thinks Rowan just moved away and that Calder was a victim of random tragedy. I'll make sure they all know exactly what happened. What you did. What you protected. My mother's hand went to her throat. You wouldn't. Try me. The silence stretched out. I could see the calculation in Vera's eyes, weighing options, realizing I wasn't bluffing. You can't cut us off, my mother tried weakly. We're your family. No. I headed for the door. Family doesn't protect abusers. Family doesn't rewrite history to cover up betrayal. You're just people I'm related to. That's all you'll ever be now. I walked out. Didn't look back. The phone calls started that night. I blocked both numbers. They tried email. I filtered those too. My mother showed up at my apartment once. I didn't answer the door. 3 months later, an encrypted email arrived from an address I didn't recognize. The message was short. We're settled. We're safe. Leora says, thank you. So do I. R. Attached was a photo, Rowan and Leora on a boat at sunset, both smiling, ocean stretching endlessly behind them. They looked free. I visited the hospital one last time. Thursday evening, the usual time. The nurse recognized me, seemed surprised, I hadn't been there in months. Calder was exactly where he'd always been. Machines breathing for him. Monitors beeping steady rhythms. The man who'd destroyed his brother's life, frozen in time, paying the price in the only way he ever would. I stood there for a long moment. No tears. No anger. Just cold acknowledgement. You made your choices, I said quietly. You destroyed good people for what? An affair? And now you get to lie here while they live free and happy. While I walk away knowing I did the right thing. I turned and left. The nurse called after me, asking when I'd visit again. I didn't answer. 2 weeks ago, my phone buzzed during a meeting. Message from Rowan, another photo. Him and Leora on a dock, holding fish they'd caught, both laughing at something off camera. The caption, thank you for giving us our lives back. I saved the photo. Went back to my meeting. Later that night, I sat in my apartment with a beer and thought about family. About blood versus choice. About the difference between loyalty and complicity. Sometimes justice isn't about punishment. It's about protecting the people who deserve peace. It's about refusing to participate in lies just because they're convenient. I chose the right side. And I'd do it again. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you really like our videos, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Have a great day.